Most people know her as Johnny Cash's wife, the woman who helped create Ring of Fire. But what they don't know is that she was already a big star before she ever met the Man in Black. When she was 6 years old, she was already singing on stage. By the time she was 10, she was traveling all around the country performing. She wrote one of the most famous songs ever made, won 5 Grammy Awards, and built a music business that lasted for many years. But her story got covered up by sadness, heartbreak, and a love so strong it actually killed both of them within 4 months of each other. The real June Carter Cash was a funny person, a rebel, and a smart songwriter who refused to let anyone else control her life. This isn't just a love story. It's the story of a woman who won at everything, lost it all, and still managed to change music forever. And what you're about to learn will completely change how you think about one of country music's most famous couples. Because the woman behind Johnny Cash was hiding secrets that would shock even her best friends. Secrets about forbidden love, family problems, and a sad ending that no one expected. June Carter wasn't just born into music. She was born into country music royalty. The Carter family was the first family of country music, making hit songs before June could even walk. But what made June different from every other kid born into musical families was simple. She was amazingly talented in ways that were hard to explain. While other kids were playing with toys, 6-year-old June was already performing like a professional. She learned to play the auto harp, banjo, and guitar with such focus that it worried even her musical parents. By age 10, she had developed something that would become legendary in country music, the Carter Scratch. A guitar-playing style so special that musicians still try to copy it today. But here's where June's story takes its first surprising turn. In 1943, when June was just 14, the original Carter family broke up. Most people would have thought this was the end of their musical dreams. June saw it as her beginning. Her mother, Mabel, made a choice that would change country music forever. She started a new group called the Carter Sisters and Mother Mabel. And June wasn't just a member. She became the main performer and comedian at 14 years old. Think about that for a moment. A 14-year-old girl was commanding stages across America, making grown adults laugh until their stomachs hurt. The Carter Sisters weren't just another family band. They were pioneers traveling to radio stations across Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, and Pennsylvania. And June wasn't just singing. She was helping announce radio shows, handling commercials, and creating characters that would define her career for many years. The most famous of these was Aunt Polly. June's funny character was described by co-workers as a natural-born clown. With her thin, tall body, June transformed into this character that could steal any show. But what people didn't realize was that Aunt Polly wasn't just for laughs. It was June's way of controlling her own story in a business run mostly by men. And all of this was happening while June was still going to John Marshall High School. She was balancing a full education with a touring career that would have worn out most adults. But June loved the craziness. She later admitted that she had to work twice as hard as her sisters musically, but she had something they didn't, an amazing ability to connect with audiences through humor and personality. By 1950, the Carter Sisters had achieved something remarkable. They joined the Grand Ole Opry, the most important stage in country music. June was 21 years old and already performing alongside legends like Hank Williams and a young Elvis Presley, who was actually distantly related to the Carter family. But it was during these early Opry days that June's life took a turn that would define everything that followed. She met a rising star named Johnny Cash, and what happened between them would create one of music's greatest love stories and its most tragic ending. Most people thought June Carter's life began when she met Johnny Cash. They couldn't be more wrong. By 1955, June had already caught the attention of Hollywood. Famous director Elia Kazan saw her performance at the Grand Ole Opry and told her something that would change her path forever. He told her to try acting. June didn't just think about this advice. She left everything she knew and moved to New York City to study at the Actors Studio under Lee Strasberg and Sanford Meisner. These weren't just any acting teachers. They were the people who trained some of Hollywood's biggest stars, and June did just as well as actors who would become household names. Her television career took off right away. She appeared on Gunsmoke, Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, and movies like The Apostle. But June never gave up her first love, music. And this is where her story becomes truly amazing. Because while building an acting career, She was at the same time creating some of the most important songs in country music history. In the early 1960s, June took on the job of songwriter. Working with Merle Kilgore, she created a song that would become legendary, Ring of Fire. But here's what most people don't know about this song. The words weren't just poetry. They were June's confession about her feelings for a married man she couldn't have, Johnny Cash. The song was so personal, so revealing of her forbidden feelings that June couldn't bring herself to record it. Instead, she gave it to her sister, Anita Carter, who became the first person to record Ring of Fire. But when Johnny Cash heard the song, something amazing happened. He didn't just want to record it, he changed it into something completely different. Johnny added mariachi horns to the music. The Carter family, including June, sang background vocals, and the result was a #1 hit that stayed at the top of the charts for 7 weeks. But what made this even more complicated was the controversy that would follow. Johnny's first wife, Vivian, later claimed that Johnny had actually written the song with Merle Kilgore and only gave June songwriting credit because she needed the money and he liked her. Whether or not that's true, one thing is certain. Ring of Fire marked the beginning of a musical partnership that would define both of their careers. In 1964, June and Johnny recorded their first official duet, It Ain't Me, Babe, a Bob Dylan song. The chemistry between them was undeniable. Critics and fans right away recognized something special was happening. But their collaboration reached new heights in 1967 with Jackson. This catchy, spirited duet wasn't just a hit. It became one of their signature pieces and won them a Grammy Award for Best Country Performance in 1968. The success of Jackson led to a collaborative album called Carrying On with Johnny Cash and June Carter. What makes this even more remarkable is that all of these musical achievements happened before June and Johnny were married. She was building a solo career, an acting career, and a collaborative partnership at the same time. As a solo artist in the 1950s, she had hits like Jukebox Blues and the comedic No Swaller in Place, which showed off her signature exaggerated breathing and comedic timing. June was proving something that few women in country music had managed at the time. She could succeed on her own terms in multiple businesses while keeping her unique personality and refusing to be molded into what others expected her to be. June Carter's personal life was far more complicated than anyone realized. Her marriages tell the story of a woman searching for love while dealing with the pressures of fame, family expectations, and her own complicated heart. Her first marriage in 1952 was to honk singer Carl Smith. June was 23, and on the surface, it seemed perfect. Two country music performers building a life together. They had a daughter, Rebecca Carlin Smith, who would later become known as Carlin Carter and follow in her mother's footsteps. But the marriage fell apart by 1956, ending in divorce when June was just 27. By 1957, June had married again, this time to Edwin "Rip" Nix, a former football player and police officer who was as far from the music world as possible. Maybe June was trying to find stability away from the chaos of show business. They welcomed a daughter, Rosie Nix Adams, in 1958. But this marriage also ended in divorce by 1966. Two failed marriages by age 37 would have discouraged most people. But June's heart was already somewhere else. She had fallen deeply in love with Johnny Cash, and this is where her story becomes a scandal that shocked the country music world. Johnny Cash was married to Vivian Liberto. They had 4 daughters together. By all appearances, Johnny was a family man living the American dream. But behind the scenes, his relationship with June was becoming impossible to ignore. Their musical chemistry was undeniable, but their personal attraction was causing problems that went far beyond music. The song Ring of Fire wasn't just a hit. It was June's public confession of her feelings for a married man. Think about how bold that decision was. She wrote a song about falling in love with someone she couldn't have, then gave it to her sister to record, and eventually watched the man she loved turn it into his biggest hit. The emotional complexity of that situation is almost impossible to imagine. Their early duets, like It Ain't Me, Babe, and Jackson, were performed while Johnny was still married to Vivian. The chemistry between them on stage was so obvious that fans and industry insiders began guessing about their relationship. June was being painted as the other woman who broke up Johnny's marriage. The guilt and moral struggle June faced during this time affected both her personal life and her career. She was a woman with strong religious beliefs who found herself in love with a married father of 4. The internal conflict was devastating. Yet, their musical collaboration continued to produce Grammy-winning performances. The situation reached a breaking point in 1968. During a live performance at the London Ice House in London, Ontario, Johnny Cash did something completely unexpected. He asked June to marry him in front of a live audience. This wasn't a private romantic moment. It was a public declaration that shocked everyone who saw it. June said yes. They married on March 1, 1968 in Franklin, Kentucky. But their happiness came at a cost. Johnny's divorce from Vivian had been bitter and public. June was criticized by some fans who saw her as a homewrecker. The pressure of public scrutiny combined with the guilt June carried about how their relationship started would haunt their marriage for years. Together, they had a son named John Carter Cash, who would later follow in his parents' footsteps as a musician, songwriter, and producer. June also became stepmother to Johnny's 4 daughters from his previous marriage, including Rosanne Cash, who had become a successful country artist in her own right. What happened after June and Johnny Cash married was nothing short of amazing. They didn't just become country music's power couple. They redefined what a musical partnership could accomplish. From 1968 until June's death in 2003, they created a legacy that influenced generations of musicians. Their first major project as a married couple was The Johnny Cash Show, which ran from 1969 to 1971. June wasn't just Johnny's wife making occasional appearances. She was a regular presence, showing off her comedy skills, her musical talents, and her ability to connect with audiences. The show featured everyone from Bob Dylan to Joni Mitchell, and June held her own among music's biggest names. Their Grammy success continued throughout the 1970s. In 1971, they won the Grammy Award for Best Country Vocal Performance by a duo or group for their version of If I Were a Carpenter, written by Tim Hardin. This song reached number 8 on the U.S. charts and showed their ability to take other artists' material and make it completely their own.